This is Jittery Jack, and you're listening to Jim and Mike Talk.
Special guest on our show. He's a singer, songwriter, rockabilly guitarist.
That's right.
From Boston, Massachusetts. The one, the only, Jittery Jack.
Hey guys. How you doing?
Hey.
Hey, so do we call you Jack?
Sure.
Oh,
Absolutely.
okay. So you're in Boston. Do you live in Boston?
No, I live a little bit north of the city. I live in a small town called Manchester by the Sea. Perhaps you've heard of it.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Put my little town on the map, you see.
Yeah.
Did you grow up in Massachusetts?
Yeah, I moved here when I was a kid. I was born in England, and I moved here when I was pretty young, and I grew up right here in the town, in Manchester.
Okay. Yeah, I hear a little bit of an accent there.
Very cool.
It's a hodgepodge of sorts, but...
Very cool.
So, when you were, when did you first discover music, or when?
Well, at a young age. I mean, growing up, my father was a musician, and so he played guitar, and he was a big music fan. He liked old rock and roll and a lot of country music. And when I was a kid, I used to hate country music, and he'd just say, just wait, the wife hasn't left you yet, and the young love job, because one day
you'll understand it later, right?
And he was right, because I sure do love it. And my grandfather was not a musician, but he was a massive music fan. He was a neat guy. He lost his hand in a wood saw when he was like 13, back in like the 30s, but it never slowed him down. He was like a truck driver, and there was like really nothing he couldn't do. But he loved country music. So growing up, it was just always around, And in England, the radio over there is really great. I mean, it's not like it used to be, but it's still pretty good. Like even like your top 40 station would play, they play like the top 40 song, and then they play like a Buddy Holly song or something. It was like really very varied. So at a young age, I was always exposed to music and a lot of old rock and roll and stuff. And we used to go, I'd spend the weekends with my grandparents, and we'd go to the British Legion Hall, and they'd have live bands and stuff. So Bill Haley and Gene Vincent, Eddie Cochran, stuff like that. I knew about all that stuff from a very young age, and the bug started there, I suppose. And as you get older, you find your own stuff. I liked punk rock and things like that. But then, you kind of make that progression of, well, what are these guys that I like? What do they listen to? And suddenly you find you're like, well, they like Eddie Cochran too. And so it just kind of went from there. And
So as a young adult, did you experience punk and new wave and alternative and stuff like that, and then come back and see what you wanted in rockabilly?
At a pretty young age, it became mainly a rockabilly thing. I played in a country band with this gal called Xana Don't. She lives in Seattle now, but she's from Boston. And I played with Johnny O'Halloran, who was he was one of the legendary O'Halloran brothers, like the other brothers were the Dogmatics, and a guy called Dana Stewart, who later went on to be in the Racketeers.
Oh, okay.
He and I were in the band together, and we started, we were hanging out and listening to, country music, but like, listening to stuff like the guys we listen to. And suddenly the rockabilly thing started happening pretty quickly. I would say by around, 19 years old, that's kind of where I fixated, and I've been stuck there ever since. I've always done different things. Like I've played in different kinds of bands. I had a brief tour of duty in a band called Moving Targets, which was like a legendary Boston post-punk band with a guy called Kenny Chambers. And like that's a band like Husker Du listed as like an influence. That band came out in the early 80s, and he sort of reformed the band in the early 90s, and I had a brief stint playing with Kenny in that band. And honestly, I kind of BS my way into the gig because I really had no business in the band, but I was a big fan. So
at that point, was it vocals and guitar, or what were you doing at that point?
Just guitar back then. I didn't really start singing until it's probably about in my early 20s. I always sang around the house and stuff, but I never really had a confidence for singing until my early 20s. And Dana had started the Racketeers, and I really wanted to be in that band, and they would let me come up and do a couple songs and stuff. But they ended up picking this guy, John Porth, who was also later was in the Conchs. He got the gig as like the rhythm guitar player, and I was really sore about it. But Dana said, you need to start your own band. We need more bands. So I started a band with a guy called Jack Hanlon, who was in the Amazing World Crowns. We called the Loudermilk Brothers. And then shortly after that, I started the Raging Teens with Amy, of course. And that's 25 years now. In fact, we're having our 25th anniversary of the Raging Teens. Will be in 2021, which is crazy to think about because Amy was 18 when I met her. It's so weird. So time
25
flies.
years.
Yeah.
So these were all Boston bands the Racketeers. Are they from?
From Boston, yeah, they were Boston. And so in the 90s, we had a really great rockabilly scene in Boston. The Cranktones were like the premier band that had been around before us. In fact, John, the bass player from the Cranktones, plays with me now, Jittery Jack band. And actually Stan, the drummer, does too. So I have 2/3 of the Cranktones playing with me, which is a real treat because those were the cats that we like cut our teeth learning how to play, going to see those guys, So it's nice to come full circle and get to play with them. And so we had like the Racketeers, the Bourbonaires, there was like the Stumbleweeds, the Cranktones, of course, the Roll Crowns down in Rhode Island, but there was a lot of bands, Speed Devils. There was a really great scene in Boston, So the Raging Teens formed. I was living in New Hampshire briefly, and that's where I met Amy and Jim and Keith, the original Raging Teens guys. And so the band kind of started in New Hampshire and then kind of morphed to be really just a Boston band. Everyone sort of moved this way. And we did that.
You moved back from New Hampshire for the scene and the activity.
No, it was kind of a marriage.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it happens. Yeah.
Back, these things happen. The marriage is no more, but we get along just fine. My ex-wife was a musician too, so she was a pretty accomplished singer-songwriter. Mary Lou Lord is her name. So
yeah.
So there's a big rockabilly scene in Boston.
There was. I mean, it's not so much anymore. I mean, everyone's kind of older now, and we don't. Live music as a whole seems to just really. I mean, I hope when this terrible pandemic ends, people kind of really realize what they missed and embrace it again.
Yeah.
It's been tough times. I mean, we always like to joke we can't get arrested in Boston, but we go to Europe, we go to Australia, we go to California, and we have a crowd, and yet in town everyone's like, oh, those guys, you know what I mean? So it's. I guess that's true with any place you're from, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
Tell me about this Rockabilly festival. I saw you. Was that was in Boston? Right?
There's a number. I mean, there's a great one. The big one every year is in Viva Las Vegas. That's been 22, 23 years and happening now. Obviously, this year didn't happen.
Yeah.
And, I've been playing that festival since like the late 90s with the Raging Teens, and now Tom Ingram that runs it is has sort of become a pal at this point. And I'm fortunate enough I go every year because I work the event on one of the MCs. So I get to introduce bands all weekend long, and that means I'm always going to end up playing too. We don't always have a regular slotted gig every year, but me and Amy always end up going because she gets hired to play. It was like she was supposed to play this year with a band called the Shillelagh Sisters, which is it's Lynn Bora and Boz Bora of the Polecats and Morrissey fame. And the singer in that band was the gal from Bananarama, and it was the band before Bananarama, and they were doing a reunion, and they hired Amy to play guitar, but obviously that didn't happen this year. Supposedly it's all gonna.
It's not the girl that was in Shakespeare's Sister, was it?
I don't know which gal is the singer. I forget her name. I met her, but I don't remember. We played.
There were, I think, 3 girls in that band.
Okay. Yeah, I can't remember which gal was the singer. That's I did meet her. We played a show in London last summer with Lynn and Boz, and she was there. We got to meet her, and Amy got to meet her because she was going to be playing with her, But I'm assuming we would have hung out some more in Vegas, but that didn't happen. So that's the big one that happens every year. But there's a great festival. It's always Easter weekend. Although this next year they moved it to September because of obviously COVID. They don't think things are going to be ready in the spring. But
because we're planning a trip to Vegas.
Oh well, that's a good time. It's usually
me and my buddies
Easter weekend, but this year next year is going to be September. And I mean, it's an incredible time. I think it's like about 10,000 people there, and then they do the car show on the Saturday, which brings I think like an additional 10,000 people. It's crazy. It's all weekend long. So that's the big granddaddy of the festivals. But we have a great festival in New England now that it's been going on for about 6 years now. It's called the New England Shake Up. This gal, Beck Russell, she put it together. She runs Swell Tune Records. And it's, selfishly, I love it because it's an hour from my house, you know what I mean? Which is great. But it's a really neat festival because it's all about the music. There's no, there's no like pinup shows and burlesque and all that stuff. It's just about the bands and the music. And she gets great bands from all over the world. So that's happening last weekend in September 2021. This year had to get canceled, obviously, because of things. But that's a real good time. If you're in the Northeast, that's a not miss event. It's fantastic.
Well, we're in Jersey, so
Oh yeah, well, that's an easy road trip for you fellas.
Yeah.
There you go.
Now, speaking of COVID, and so many live shows aren't able to happen and such. Jim told me that you were doing something just recently, live concert or
last night.
Yeah, I do
every week.
Friday nights. I do a little live stream from my kitchen, which is it's funny. I mean, I was reluctant to do it at first because I'm not a great guitar player. I've always surrounded myself with talented people, so I like to say I've got 4 chords on a good day. You know what I mean? But necessity kind of dictated that I should do that, and I've actually been having a lot of fun. I mean, it's been months now. I've been doing it every Friday night, and I play like an hour. I don't play too long, but I play some songs and I tell some stories, and it's just a fun thing to have something to look forward to, It's a thing to do every week because there's no.
I was on there last night. I requested Viking Rock.
Oh, hey, there you go. All right. I had to dig deep for that one. I haven't. That was on the first EP, and I don't think I played that song in probably close to 10 years or something. I don't know. So but I remembered it, I think. So thanks for the request.
That's about a friend, you said, right?
Yeah, Jan Svensson, who's he's a Swedish guy from Eskilstuna, and his band's called Wildfire Willie and the Ramblers, and they're absolutely fantastic. And when we were a younger act, that was kind of the band that a lot of the American bands tended to lean more towards like a neo-rockabilly thing, like or a psychobilly thing. And these guys, Jan has a thing. He's just like the record. He says he's obsessed with rock and roll and their sound. But you'd never know they were from Sweden. You would never know those records weren't recorded in the 50s. They're fantastic, and he's a great friend. And so I wrote that song for Jan because we've had some good times together through the years. Him coming over and visiting and staying with us. And
so he lives in Sweden.
Yeah, he's a Swedish guy. He lives in Eskilstuna.
I was there a couple years ago. My wife
visited there.
Loves Sweden.
Oh, it's a good time, right?
We're hoping to go back next year. Stockholm.
They like to party and have a good time. I mean, they really are Vikings. We did last summer. We didn't go to Sweden. We went to Finland and played a festival on Midsummer, which was a total trip because it's like the sun doesn't set. It's like the craziest thing. It's like you're drinking and suddenly you're like
it's 11 o'clock.
It's 3 in the morning and the sun's still up. You know what I mean? It's really weird, but it was a good time. It's fun. I love that. I don't think I'd like to be there in the winter. It's the opposite. It's all dark all the time, right? But in the summer,
right.
It's a good time,
Cool, so when did you first pick up a guitar? I mean, when did you start playing guitar? You played a different instrument, or
guitar?
Or was it guitar? Okay.
I like to say I've always played guitar and never really got that good at that, and never really bothered to do anything else. I can play a little bass, little drums, not enough to hurt me any, But when growing up, my father played guitar, and I'm going to throw him under the bus right now because the jerk never. He'd always say, "Oh yeah, we'll get around to learning that," it just never happened. I used to try and play around with it, but it wasn't until I moved to the States I was bored, and I think my mom wanted give me a thing to do, so drive her crazy. So my mom bought me my first guitar, and I think within a 6-month window, I got about as good as I am now. I never really got any better. So I figured out I could, as long as I had enough to get by, I could get by on that. So it's
I started playing when I was 15. I took lessons. I know about 6 chords now.
Is that right? I took a couple lessons from this. There was this old lady here in town, and she was teaching me that she was like a real folky. She was into Peter, Paul, and Mary. And she was trying to teach me, if I had a hammer and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's not really what I'm into. I mean, I had a friend who was a couple years older who played. He was like the guitar player guy in school. Like he'd play like Eddie Van Halen stuff, and he was like, "I'll teach you some stuff." So we had a little band in high school, me and him, because I think he just wanted someone to play with that could play the chords. You know what I mean? So he could solo.
So you're more of a rhythm guitarist.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, my pledge for this pandemic has been to get better at guitar playing. Like
Mm-hmm.
my aspiration is to become a good, mediocre guitar player. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm getting close. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing when you're sitting around the house, you're like, I got this thing, and then like you go out, you're like, okay, maybe I don't. You know, and when you play with such talented people. Like I've been playing with Amy for 25 years. I mean, she is.
Oh, I've seen your video. She's
great.
She's
good.
good.
And she's not just great because she's a woman. She's just a great guitar player. And so it's tough when you're dealing with that. You know, how do you even compete really? You know, so I've always felt that way. But my goal is like we do it sometimes live. We do things. She's one of these people who can play anything. So we do it sometimes. Stan from the Cranktones who's playing with us. He's a great singer and a rhythm guitar player too, and he's a fantastic drummer. But we'll do a thing where like he'll come up and sing, and Amy will play the drums, which usually means I'm hoping like hell there's a guitar player in the audience.
Yeah.
So my goal is I can hold my own. Just for like a song or two, I can hold my own. You know,
that's great.
Close. You know what I mean? But
so how about your band? I was wondering if the people, your drummer, your bass player that I see in the videos, if they're with your band officially or contractual, or you know, how does that work?
Well,
who's with you now?
The whole premise of the Jittery Jack act, if you will, was when I started doing that. The whole thing was it was my project. So I never really. In fact, Barrence Whitfield, who's a legendary Boston guy, I've been friends with for years. So the Raging Teens we never actually officially broke up, but we just stopped being an active band because everyone was doing different stuff, and I'd become a dad, and this kind of thing. So I've been writing songs. I had this idea to do this sort of Jittery Jack thing. I did a couple of gigs and just got a few players in, and then Barrence told me, he's like, "What are you waiting for?" He's like, "Just go make a record. Get the best people you know. Make the record." He goes, "If you make the record, they'll book you. They'll give you a band in Europe, whatever."
Oh yeah,
right, they will. So I made the record here in town, and Amy didn't play on the first EP. I used this guy Jerry Miller. Jerry Miller's played with like Jay Gow's band, and he's a monster player. He plays with this gal called Aileen Jewell now, and so I hired him. John, who plays bass with me now, and this guy Jub Williams played drums on it, who's in the Amazing Royal Crown. So I did that, and then I got hired. I sent the record to Tom Ingram from Viva Las Vegas. He's like, "Hey, do you want to play? We've had a cancellation, main stage gig, and I was like, "Yes, I'll do it." And then I instantly realized I don't have a band, so I had to call.
Gotta get some people.
So I called my buddy Deke Dickerson and said, because I knew Deke would be there. I said, "Hey, would you be up for playing guitar?" And he said, "Yeah, of course." I said, "Great, and can you help me put a band together?" So he got this guy Dave Wolf from Minneapolis, lives in Texas now, and this guy Chris Sprague, who we all know and love, we call him Sugar Balls. He's the drummer for Little Straight Jackets now. So that was my backing band for the first Vegas gig, and this guy Reb Kennedy from Wild Records caught the act and he liked it and said, "Hey, I want to have you come out to LA and record a record." He goes, "I'll provide all the musicians." And then about 2 weeks before, he said, he was going to have this guy Omar Romero play guitar, and Omar had some stuff going on. He's like, "Do you have a guitar player in Boston that might want to come out, to LA and make a record?" And the first person I could think of that I've always loved playing with, and who would probably drop everything to go do it, was Amy. So I said, "Hey, Amy, how would you feel about going to do this thing?" And she's like, "Okay, I'll come do it." But she's like, "It's your gig. I'm like the hired gun, So we did that record together. And I was like, "You know what? This is really fun playing with you, and I miss that." So I said, "You're in the band now." So the band is really me and her. Like I always say, it's Jittery Jack with Amy Griffin on guitar, because she's her own entity. You know what I mean? And so it's the two of us. That's the core of the band. Locally, I mean, we've had a bit of a rotating cast of people, and we still do. Like sometimes if John can't do a gig, I'll have someone else play bass, and sometimes we'll do it as a trio. But that's the main local band. But it's so hard, financially to take a band on the road now that we have people, like I have West Coast guys I use. I have Canadian guys I use. I have guys, if I go down to New York, I got guys down there I use, and European people. So we basically, me and Amy come as the package, and we use a pickup rhythm section usually. I mean, I wish I could take my guys out on the road all the time, but
well, that keeps it exciting, certainly, playing with different people and stuff.
I mean, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. But,
right.
Usually I know everyone, so it's kind of, I know the deal, but there's a couple of times we've had like a last minute fill-in person who's like, we're like, "Oh boy, here we go." You know what I mean? But I always joke when we're playing with Amy, everyone's looking at her anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I was watching a video this morning, and yeah, she's got great licks, and she's really good. Yeah,
she's really multifaceted too. She got hired for this gig recently in Boston. So the Red Sox have this organization called the Jimmy Fund, and they do this fundraiser every year called Hot Stove Cool Music. Peter Gammons from ESPN is one of the organizers of it, and we played it years ago with the Raging Teens, and Kay Hanley from Letters to Cleo put together this group called
Band
of Their Own. It's all women musicians, and every year they have guests. Like last year, it was like Sherry Curry from the Runaways, and Debbie Peterson, the drummer from the Bangles, played. So Amy got the gig playing guitar with that. So they now do it in Boston and Chicago because Theo Epstein, who used to be the Red Sox, GM, is now obviously with the Cubs. So they do it in Boston and Chicago. So she's got that gig, and she might be playing, Someone to Love by Jefferson Airplane, next to a Runaway song. Who knows? It's a real mixed bag. She's super talented. She can play anything. I mean, she's played keyboards for the Bouncing Souls before. She's in a band with Joe Gittleman from the Bosstones called Avoid One Thing. And they just put a new record out recently. They hadn't done anything in 15 years, and they secretly recorded a brand new record and unveiled it, So. Wow. So she does a little bit of everything. She's a hired gun, and she's always busy. So I'm like a one-trick pony. You know what I mean? I got my one thing.
On the way over to the studio, I drove over from Pennsylvania to beautiful Washington, New Jersey. Here, I was listening to your 2014 album, "Gonna Have a Time." I love the title because it's like you don't know if you're gonna have a good time or a bad time, but you're gonna have a time.
That's
with
right.
Jittery Jack. Yeah. I thought it was pretty cool. I was really impressed, especially the first couple songs. Then I listened to the whole thing. Just real classic rockabilly. I mean, it's true. It's a pure rockabilly.
Well,
I'm just wondering, just thinking about how you've been in different bands, you've done different things, and just to keep that, it's interesting, and I admire that because you can make it impure and you can go different ways. It's blended. It's like a fusion Thai restaurant. You throw in other dishes along with what's Thai. Just any thoughts on that?
Well, for me, I appreciate the sentiment there, and that's always the goal is to achieve that kind of very traditional sound. I like to think that we're a little bit more of a mixed bag. Like if you really want to get into the rockabilly purist, whole, we do play rockabilly, but we also play 50s rock and roll, and we even dabble in like a little bit of like late 50s, early 60s, almost like teetering on garage stuff, but we always try to make it true to the time frame of when it's from, like there are bands that are just a traditional rockabilly band. That's all they do, and we do a little bit more than that. And I, as much as I appreciate the sentiment, I always feel like I'm still trying to get there. You know what I mean? Like each time, I really like the way that record came out. We recorded it locally. It was all recorded live, basically to a one-track machine. And
that's awesome.
Set up and play.
That's what I like. I like the sound. I like the sound on the first album.
It came out good.
It sounds like it could be something from the 50s.
That's all
you're listening
to.
It's not overproduced or
Yeah, and
well, there is no
live.
production. It's like you set up and you play, and if you don't like it, you do it again. Because
that's what I love about it.
Listen to our records as long as you to record them. You know what I mean? So
that's the fun to work ratio is really at your advantage there. You actually do get to have fun without too many hours of laborious editing and all that stuff. I mean, that's so there's an real advantage there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it's all about compromise too. Like if you're tracking a live track and someone like I finally get the vocal right and Amy has a little flub on the guitar, like she's got to live with it. And
we keep that.
The technology has evolved to the point where you can kind of cheat enough to. You can use things like Pro Tools and then bounce it to the old gear, so you can kind of do a little bit of best. So Amy's kind of expressed an interest in wanting to do more of that because she always feels like she's the one being judged. And in hindsight, I suppose too, I just don't really enjoy the recording process. I like playing shows, so to me, I kind of try to treat it like it's a show. But that being said, when you go in to make a record, you might have half the record is songs that you've been playing out live for like a year or so that you're really comfortable with, and then you've got new stuff that you're finishing and it's never like a song may get recorded. And then you start playing that song live, and it's like it takes on a different kind of approach. So we this time around we were about to record a new record right before the stuff happened, and obviously things went on lockdown. So Amy and I have been kind of working together on new material, and we're going to at some point in the very near future, that's going to be our goal for this winter is to somehow, some way get a record done, and have some.
Now, are those all original songs?
I would say the last record is probably 75% original songs. There's a few covers on there. There's a couple covers that are kind of like rare. Like, it's always funny. Like, I'll if you do obscure stuff, the average Joe thinks you wrote it, so you can kind of take that.
Yeah.
But there's a Russ Kendall song on there called Boston Baby that was just a record I found that was probably like a regional hit back in the 50s.
Yeah.
And I love the song, so we did that one. And then there's a Freddie Cannon song on there, Boston, My Hometown, that I did that as homage. I've always loved the tune. And our friend, there was a band called the Kings of Nothing from Boston that the singer Tor Skoog was a good friend who sadly passed away about 5 years ago. So they used to do a great version of that song. So I was like, we kind of did that as a little bit of an homage to Tor. And now that's become our song that when we travel, everyone wants us to hear, play the Boston songs. We're like, okay, cool. So it's a great tune. And I got to meet Freddie Cannon and give him a copy of the record. Which was great. So, wow. And he's like, I said, oh, I'm from Boston. He goes, I'm from Boston too. I said, no, Mr. Piccarilli, you're from Revere, Mass. And he was like, no.
Oh, okay.
He was impressed.
Yeah, that's cool.
So tell us how you met Imelda May.
Imelda May. She's
Imelda May.
Yeah. So Daryl, when I was recording with Wild Records, this guy Reb Kennedy, who owns Wild Records, he's an Irish guy, and he grew up. His family were, I don't think they're relatives, or they might be cousins with Imelda's family. So he's known Imelda since she was a little girl, and she obviously married this guy Daryl Hyam, who's a guy that I had been a fan of and kind of knew, but not really that well. And Reb kind of connected us again. So whenever Imelda would come to town, we would originally just hang out. Like she might have like interviews to do all day. So me and Daryl go like shopping and stuff, and we became good pals. And then he was like, "Hey, this is crazy. Let's have you." So when Imelda would come to town, we would open the show, which was great. We did that a couple times, I think 3 times actually, and it was great. I mean, because she started getting really huge, and it started. Each venue we would play be bigger than the last one, and then
that was just you two.
Just me and Amy, the Jittery Jack band would open for Imelda,
Oh, okay. The whole band. All right, gotcha.
Yeah, and then Daryl and I became good pals. And one of the last times they were over, he said, "I've had this idea that I want to make," because Daryl's a great guitar player. I mean, one of the best, and he's also a great singer. So I was a little nervous about this, but he said, "I've always wanted to kind of make a record where I could just focus on playing guitar and have another person sing." He's like, "Would you be interested in coming over and doing that?" And I was like, "Yes, please." So I ended up going over to England on my own and making a record with Daryl at his studio, and it was half my songs and half. So I think six of my songs, 5 of Daryl's songs, and then this guy Pete Pritchard, bass player who played on the record. He actually was Scotty Moore's bass player for like 25 years. Wow. Scotty Moore obviously played with Elvis, and Pete's great. And Pete actually had a song that Daryl liked and I liked, so we ended up covering that song, and that came out on a label called Foot Tapping Records. In fact, I talked to Daryl recently, and he said Clive keeps raving about the record, and he goes, "Do you want to make another one? Let's do it again." And I was like, "Okay." So obviously we've got to figure out when that can be done, but so that. I was
going to ask you if you're singing on that whole album.
Yeah, that's just me singing. I'm doing all the singing. And he's doing all the playing. I'm just singing. So, but it was fun. It was half my songs and half his, and it was interesting we actually in the live show will occasionally do a song from that record, and Amy will play Daryl's parts, and he just thinks she's the best. So he gets a big kick out of it. He's like it's like a real honor for someone to take the time to learn, and he loves Amy. So he's just like, she can do no wrong. You know what I mean? So he's like, so that's always fun. He gets a kick out of that when we do it. So.
Cool.
So one of the songs you play on your live stream all the time, like every show, is this song Clam Box.
Yeah.
Now, is that an original?
Oh yeah, I wrote that one. So
because I was looking for that song on Apple Music.
Search for the Clam Box.
I love that song.
Oh, it's on the Wild Records album, which may not be on. Reb's really weird about digital stuff, so it might be. I think it's on my Bandcamp or something. You can probably find it on YouTube, but I don't know if it's on. I don't know if it's downloadable because Reb's really weird. Like Reb's really old school. Like buy the record, don't download it.
Okay.
But I wrote that song. So I live north of Boston, and this is clam country, right?
Oh yeah.
Next town to Manchester is a town called Essex, Massachusetts, which they invented the fried clam. A place called Woodman's, where the Beastie Boys have a song about Woodman's. the Blue Plate Special at Woodman's. Because
Okay.
I think Ad Horowitz, whatever, Adam Horowitz, is that his name?
Yeah.
His father lived up in Gloucester, which is real near here. So it's been referenced. So the fried clam is something I love. It's a tradition around here.
Yeah.
You know? And so I wanted to write a song about it. But my favorite seafood restaurant is a place called Essex Seafood, which tragically burned to the ground this winter.
Oh,
which is
wow.
they're rebuilding, so it's all good. So, but Essex Seafood didn't really have a good rhyme to it. So there's a place in Ipswich called the Clam Box. It's actually shaped. The building is shaped like an actual clam box.
Oh.
So I was like, you know what? That's going to be a bet. So I just kind of stole the name of the Clam Box and worked the song around that. But it's not a bad spot. It's just not my local spot because I got to drive about 25 minutes to get there. But so yeah, I think it's the first ever song written about the fried clam in history.
Yeah. Can you play a little bit of it for us?
You want me to play it for you?
Yeah.
All right. It's about a minute and a half long. I'll give you the whole thing.
That's okay.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right, let me see.
I don't think Mike's heard it.
No. Jim wanted me to hear it live the first time. I've not heard this song before. So.
All right. Well, here you go. The first.
He didn't say try to keep a straight face throughout, but I'm going to try to keep it.
But you can chuckle all you want. In fact, I've recently changed one line in the song because I used to date this gal years ago, and I don't know why, but her nickname was Betty.
Oh, okay.
Her name wasn't Betty, but her nickname was Betty. So I referenced Sweaty Little Betty in the song.
Yeah.
But my friend from LA, this gal Becky Lynn Blanca, who's someone you guys should have on your show. She's unbelievable. She does a live stream every day, Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. East Coast time. She plays banjolele and guitar, and she's like the strict.
What's the name again?
Becky Lynn
Blanca.
Go ahead.
She's also in a band called Los Blancos too, which is kind of a garage band. But she's she's fantastic. You will love her. So anyway, she keeps joking that the song's about her. So now I've been calling it Little Becky.
Okay.
So it's Becky.
All right, so here we go. The first and only song ever about the fried clam. We'll get on. I got a gal working at the old clam box, shucking them clams at a break of 30 knots. Shrimps and scallops, clams and fries, comes home greasy, I don't mind. She's my sweaty little Betty, shucking at the old clam box. She's a sweaty Betty, you see. Now, if you ever have delicious fried clams, you know you smell like them for about an hour after you eat it because they're so greasy. Greasy makes it good, right? My gal Becky's working at the old clam box. She got a red hot snapper straight to her from the docks. You see her frying is nothing hotter. When she comes home, she makes my mouth water. She's my sweaty little Betty, shucking at the old clam box. She's my sweaty little Betty, and she's shucking at the old clam box. She's my sweaty little Betty, and she's shucking at the old clam box.
Yeah.
Massachusetts.
And she's shucking. Was it shucking?
Shucking clam.
Yeah, she's shucking. That's what I thought she was doing.
Yeah, when you open the clam, it's called shucking clam.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta pry them open, So she's shucking. Yeah. 30 knots. You gotta be, if you're a clam shucker, you gotta be able to shuck them real fast, So
yeah.
A lot of clams to eat.
So I want to talk about beer.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier. Yeah, you guys saw the commercial.
Yeah.
I was eating granola and oatmeal, and Jim sends it to me, and I'm I nearly spit it all out. It was so hilarious.
Yeah.
The funny thing about that commercial is and I don't know. I don't watch Saturday Night Live very often, but when things of that nature come up, they tend to circulate and you see it, and then we had the what's his name? The Casey Affleck, who was in the Manchester by the Sea movie. He did the Dunkin' Donuts. Don't you remember that about 6 months ago? So now there's this image, I think, across America that people have of Boston people. And the funny thing is, it's not that far removed. I mean, it's really, it really is. Those are like the true Bostonians. So basically, the character in the beer commercial, it's almost like the same character as at Dunkin' Donuts, and it's hilarious, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's so well done.
I feel that way about Sam Adams beer. I mean, it's all right. Like, to me, I'm not a big fan of craft beer. Not that I judge.
Okay.
If you like that stuff, that's fine. But to me, so much of it is this was brewed in the underpants of a Trappist monk. It's like gross. I like
well, it's an acquired taste. The IPAs. I love the craft beers, and I started getting into the sour beers.
Yeah.
But I never liked Sam Adams, and
well, it's pretty like generic stuff, I think. They were one of the first kind of craft brewery people in the early '80s, so it was kind of the first, non-Budweiser or big, Anheuser-Busch guys to make beer.
Well,
and so that stuck, right?
Yeah. And I remember when the craft beers, a good 10 years ago or
the
more.
Big boom.
And Sam Adams came out with an IPA. I think it was called Rebel, and it's awful. Like they tried, it just wasn't up to par. The one beer I did like there was a cranberry beer that came out. It was a seasonal, and you could only get it in the variety pack, the winter variety pack. I see you drink it.
It's like how to make a bad thing worse. When they take a seasonal beer, it's like that's my joke: how to make a bad thing worse.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Well, that's the thing. Put pumpkin in it.
I haven't found the pumpkin. There's this beer app, and you can log in the beers that you've had.
Oh wow.
So we're talking over the last 6 years, not like the last month. I've had 350 different beers.
Nice, proud of you.
I like to try different beers.
Yeah. So
what I have not found, except Dogfish, that's about the best pumpkin beer.
Yeah.
Because it's not overwhelming and.
But Jim, you live for the pumpkin.
I don't like pumpkin.
You live for when they put it in the coffee.
Pumpkin spice is in everything.
It's in coffee for the next month and a half.
I don't get it, man.
So what's your favorite beer? I see you drinking Guinness.
I drink Guinness a lot, and I like Guinness. But I'm a simple, easy please guy. Like I like lager beer, like real lager beer, like German lager beer, or Mexican beer, which is a lager beer, or I like Budweiser. It doesn't like me very much for some reason. It doesn't agree with me, but I like it. Pabst Blue Ribbon is good. You'll appreciate this one because you're a craft guy. I'm not going to name names because I don't want to throw the place under the bus. But we played a gig at a brewery, and I'm probably the only person in history that got into trouble for sneaking their own beer in to a brewery.
Yeah.
I can't drink this shit. Like,
here's a free beer, but now I'll just pass. You got a water? You got a water?
Yeah. They don't want you to bring
So I snuck my own beers and they're like, hey, well, you can't have those in here. And I was like, I'm really sorry. They're like, well, we'll give you beers. It's a brewery. I was like, I can't drink any of your beer. It's gross. You know what I mean? I was trying to diplomatically, say that.
It's like going to a restaurant and bringing your own steak.
Yeah, but but if it's a steak restaurant and you get there and you find out all the serving is like, alligator steak.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
yeah.
But I like the lagers. I like the lagers too. I'm right with you, and Jim likes it hoppy, and I love lager. I don't like it hoppy, but
So in England, right, where I grew up, there's breweries everywhere. And you'll have your national breweries and you have your local breweries, and like in my hometown, there's a place called Arkell's. So in pubs in England, they're either a public house, they're owned by the brewery, or they're what's called a free house, which means it's independently owned. They can carry whatever they want. So the Arkell's Brewery pub, for example, carries all the Arkell's beer. However, they will also sell Guinness and like Carlsberg because they understand that not everybody likes that shit. So it's like, to me, it's like, just have one beer for the normal people, It's like a real drag, and a lot of these places do, because I'll be like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to like any of this beer. And have you ever noticed too when they say, I'm like, hey, listen, because you're a lager guy, right? You'll be like, all right, so let's assume I'm a guy that doesn't really like this kind of beer. Like, what would be the thing and they're like, oh, we'll try this, and this like cloudy glass of yuck comes out. And you're like, why would you ever imagine that I would like this? So plan B is you'll get a cocktail, right? But a lot of these places, they just have a beer and wine. They don't have cocktails. So I'm like, now I'm really doomed. It's like,
and then the cocktail is $14 or something.
Sure.
Well,
there's a club in town. They had this policy. The whole thing was like they only sold local. They had a restaurant too, and it was like local everything, which is cool. But they don't. There was no local beer. They wouldn't serve like a normal beer because they only had to be local stuff. And so. I remember having an argument with the person that ran it. I was like, listen, you're like losing business here because a lot of people don't like this stuff. I was like, just have one beer. I said, it's not about the money. I'll gladly pay $6 for Pabst Blue Ribbon right now, so I don't have to drink that. I just don't want to drink stuff,
Yeah, just one.
Well, a lot of the independent. I go to North Carolina a couple times a year, and there's a lot of the small breweries. Yeah, and they only have the beers that they make.
Yeah,
there. Yeah,
I mean I get it. That's the thing, but like. There's like that Anthony Bourdain thing about the ketchup. Have you guys heard that one? So he's like,
What
it's
is it?
Anthony Bourdain,
Yeah.
right? He's like a
Yeah.
fantastic chef,
Yeah.
connoisseur of food. And in one of his books, someone showed it to me. He's like, all right. He goes, I just want to say for the record, all of you, people out there that are your restaurants, he's just like, stop making your own ketchup. He goes, you can't beat the original.
Mhm.
It tastes great. No one cares. He's like, just there's no need for this.
Yeah.
He's like, focus on, don't give me your organic, whatever. He goes, I don't care. Just give me the Heinz 57. It's awesome. It's
There's nothing like Heinz.
Yeah.
You buy the
Right?
store brand, it's just,
Just go for it, man. And
Yeah.
that's why I always kind of think about that with the beers. Just have one, for the regular people.
Have one for the lager man. Yeah. I'm with
Story.
you.
Although there is, I will say, there's a brewery out in Western Mass. I think it's called Jack Abbey's, and they make it's called Jack Abbey's House Lager, and it's actually really crisp and kind of like a Beck's. It's actually excellent. If I stumble across that in my travels, I'm like, okay, I'll take that one because that's the only one. We have Narragansett up here, which is from Rhode Island, and I feel bad because I love the company. I love the concept of it because it's local, and it's the beer that's in the movie Jaws. It's what Quint drinks, right?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
But they call it Narragansett Lager. It's sweet and sickly and gross, and they have no business calling it a lager beer. It's not,
Yeah,
And
you
then
think
they come up
someone would
with
taste it before they
how
put
to
it
make
out.
a bad thing work. It's like, ugh. But they're nice guys, and a lot of people like it. Okay, I'm like a reverse snob with beer. I just like the cheap stuff,
There's nothing wrong with that.
Right?
We have Yingling up here.
I don't like that, man. I was excited to try it because when it first kind of came up here and I tried it, I was just like, yep, no thanks. That's not for me, The oldest beer in America or something like that. It tastes like they made it 200 years ago. That's what
Aged.
My favorite cheap beer, though, is Rolling Rock.
Yeah.
I like the Rolling Rock, but it's in the
in the summer, and hot day.
Yeah,
you can't beat a hot day, right? Like a crisp lager
nice
beer, like Rolling Rock's great.
Oh,
For some reason, like everything in the Budweiser family, I can drink the hell out of it, but the next day I'm really feeling it. It doesn't, I can drink the art of the cows come home, or like German beer or whatever. Mexican beer is fine, but something about Bud, I don't know why. It doesn't agree with me. And
Michelob is one I hate. It gives me a headache.
It's got something in it. Yeah.
I actually feel ill if I haven't drank it in 20, 30 years.
Can't remember.
Last time I threw up, so.
Yeah. But I got buddies that'll drink Bud Lights till the cows come home. That's their go-to jam. It works for them. It just doesn't. I'll drink one if it's there, but it's not. I know I'm going to regret it if I do. But whereas, like, a Tecate, I love Mexican beers. Great, right? Tecate, Dos Equis or
Dos Equis, yeah, reliable. Reliable Dos Equis.
Modelo's my daughter's 21 years old now, so she's drinking, and we are both aficionados of the Mexican beer. So that's usually what we have in our fridges.
How old's your daughter?
She's 21.
Oh, I thought you said 10.
Well, in English, she's not young, but
she plays.
I give her a shout out. She's a very talented musician herself.
That's her guitar back there, right, on the stairs.
Yeah, she just got that Longhorn bass. She's so her boyfriend is in a band. This gal called Michaela Davis. It's kind of like jam bandy kind of thing. She plays the harp, like the big giant harp.
Yeah.
But he's her bass player, and they played with Bob Weir from the Dead and toured a lot of big jam band festivals. Wow. So my daughter is a singer-songwriter. Annabelle Lord Patey is her name, and she's got a record out on the iTunes and stuff. And but she's really now, she's finishing up college. She's got one more. She'll be done in the spring, and so she's kind of focused on that. But she's one of these people. She's a great guitar player, better than I am. But she can play the bass. She can play the piano. Her new thing is steel guitar. I got her a steel guitar. Steel guitar. Wow. But she just scored that Longhorn bass because it's a short neck and she's kind of small. She's like, I love this bass. So she actually sat in and did a song with me last night, which was fun. So that's her Longhorn sitting in the corner there. So
that's great. That's great to
iTunes and all that good stuff. So
that's great to keep it in the family and have that. My dad played piano, but I never learned, and it's a regret. That I'll just keep. But otherwise, no musical diversity or anything in the family. So it's great to have that. But
that being said, she never liked my stuff very much growing up. She's kind of coming around now, like she's into country music now. But for years, she was like, I don't really get what you do. I don't really like the dressing up.
I see her playing sometimes with you on the.
She's been sitting in with me lately. Yeah, that's a recent development because for you, her mother won the battle of the musical direction she was going to go in. But she's not coming back to me. It's coming full circle. Yeah. So, Mom was really good friends with Elliott Smith, the singer-songwriter. So when I first started dating her mom, she'd come sleep on our couch. Like, so Elliott became a really good friend, and my daughter, sadly never got to meet him, but she's a massive, massive Elliott Smith fan. In fact, one of her biggest prized possessions is she has the Elliott's sister Ashley gave my daughter Elliott's guitar strap that he played on the Oscars. So she has like a prized possession in her room. So she can basically, she's actually doing a song for Kill Rock Stars compilation. They're doing like a little box set thing of people covering every single Elliott Smith song ever. And my daughter's going to have a song on there, I guess. So.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. My son's 17 and he's not into music at all. It makes me sad.
Well, something could change. Something could change in a couple of years, Oh,
it'll come around, man.
He's obsessed with basketball.
Well,
but no,
we'll see.
Well, you know what?
That was Chuck Negron.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, you know what I meant to tell you guys was Chuck Negron from Three Dog Night, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I met that cat at my ex-wife was in rehab, and he was a regular at the rehab in L.A. And he would come to the meetings because he's
got programs. He's got programs and things that he does and speaks at. Right.
My ex-wife went to the program, and I got to meet him, and he was a really lovely guy, and because we do this like. She did like 30 days or whatever, and then like the last week they have like family come out, and the place was like, I was like, geez, I want to have a problem, so I can come to this place. It's unbelievable.
Where was that?
It was
where was that location? That was in LA.
Cry help.
Cry help. Yeah.
Cry help. I think
she was. It was like something like I forget what the organization was, but anyway, it was catered towards musicians. Of course, like a dork, I met this guy there who was what the hell is his name? Ken. He's the guy that discovered Richie Valens and Delphi Records, and I don't know why. I don't know if he was a reformed alcoholic, whatever. But he was there at the meeting, and I was like, sorry, Chuck Negron, I want to meet this guy.
I got to talk to him.
We're supposed to be here talking about our significant other's problems. I was like, but I want to know about the Richie Valens recordings. So he was a very nice guy.
That's a good guy.
Yeah, and his story is dark, man. He was from being.
Did you see our interview with him?
I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to watch it.
He's got some good stories.
And, a couple good stories that weren't in the book. But
if you haven't read his book, Three Dog Nightmare, you've got to read that book.
Oh, all right. I like that. Yeah, I'll check that out.
How is this guy still alive? That's what you're going to.
Oh, yeah, no, I remember him talking about being like, he'd gone from being like, a Grammy-winning artist, whatever. They're making millions, and then suddenly he's like sleeping on a park bench and like,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just a couple years, few years later, or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a rapid decline. Yeah. So,
expensive drugs.
There's so many people that don't make it, and it's like they don't. It's so I always have the utmost respect for people that pull themselves out of that because it's a terrible thing, and it's great. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It was great to interview him, and like in the interview with you, it's you've got a musician, and it's not just about the music, but like with you and with a lot of musicians we interview, you get to see what Chuck was then, what he went through, the hell he went through, and now he's playing and recording, singing and all with his daughters, and it's just awesome. Yeah, it's great to see the next generation, like your daughter, and just to see them coming up and just making music, and it's exciting.
Well, I'll tell you a funny story. I used to run a club in Boston for years, a place called Titi the Bears, and I opened up the club one day, and I would be the first one there because we weren't a restaurant, we were just music, So I open up, and the first one there, and this woman comes in, older woman, and she's like, "Is he here yet?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "You don't know?" And I was like, "No." And she goes, "Stephen Stills from Crosby, Stills and Nash, his son is playing here tonight." And I was like, "I think I would have heard about that." So I think you got the wrong, because there was another club next door. I said, what? I think you should try next door. I think you're confused. So she wanders off, and I'm doing a couple things. I go outside to have a smoke. This cab pulls up, and freaking Stephen Stills comes in. I was like, oh, wow. I was like, there was a woman here. He goes, she's still here? He was a little, And he's like, where is everybody? It was just me and Stephen Stills in the club. I was like, well, no one's here yet. And it turned out it was his daughter, not his son. So anyway, he's like, we're going to take off, and, I'll come back later. And he's like, let me give you some money to get it. I was like, dude, I said, the gal that owns this place is a massive fan of yours, and she would be mortified if I charged you to come in. Please, don't worry. So anyway, he comes back for the show, and it hadn't been advertised. Not a lot of people knew that it was, that he was going to be there, right? So there's probably about 30 people maybe in the place. And she starts playing with her band, and he is like a nervous wreck, man. He's like pacing, and he's coming back, and he's sitting on the other side of the bar. I knew exactly what he was going through. My daughter, I play in front of, I don't care, you know, but when my daughter plays a gig, I'm like a nervous wreck for her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so when they got done, he came and sat, and I was like, I know exactly what you're going through. I said, my daughter plays, and I feel the same way. He goes, I played at goddamn Woodstock. He goes, I wasn't even nearly as good as I was on the stage. And I was like, so it's a weird thing when you're kids, man. You get really, you know, and then he starts telling me about, because he's like, well, the guitar player was feeding back a little bit, and he's like, it reminded me of playing with Neil back in the day, and I was like, holy shit, Neil, you know, Neil used to feed back, you know.
This is real. This is real. Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you're a rock star. When your kid's out there, man, there's a vulnerability to that, you know. So
my daughter plays drums, and I'm a drummer, and I try to teach her, but she taught herself. That's great, you know. But she's got faster licks than I do. But anyway, when she plays, she's just smooth and cool, and I'm nervous. I'm afraid she's going to mess up or something. I don't know, but you know, she can twirl a stick, and I can't. You know, it's like, oh my god. So I know what you mean. It's just you get nervous.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, man. It doesn't matter who you are. Even if you stay still, you get nervous, right? So the kids are all right. It's a good thing, you know. It's nice that the tradition goes on, you know.
It's hard.
I wish
hard to imagine
or something, but you know, take care of me in my old age. But you know, rock and roll one. So, although she is going to college, so she's going to. She at least did that, so she'll have something to fall back on, I guess. So
right, maybe she'll do both.
So I want to tell you, I love that guitar you have there.
This one here,
is that a custom made, or are you?
Yeah, it's actually a pretty cheap, crappy Yamaha guitar that that I found, but I had it. I changed the tuning heads, and I had a friend of mine. I put in this. This is not. It wasn't originally black and white. And my friend Beck from the New England Shaker painted it. But this guitar is actually on its last legs, and the only reason I'm playing it because I bought a nice Martin guitar that is in the shop right now, having a pickup put in it, and then I'm going to have TK Smith put custom pick guards on it. But that being said, I got to get this one fixed too, because I love this Martin guitar, but I don't know if I want to take it on the road.
We're near Martin Guitar. I used to live down the street.
I live in Bethlehem. Let's see what we got there. For our listeners, he's showing us a tattoo on his right bicep.
Oh, wow.
And it says
Martin Company.
And Company. Very
so
nice.
My ex-wife
had
a 1953 Martin D18 that in a convoluted way, the guitar was bought for her by her ex-boyfriend, who happened to be Kurt Cobain. So, So she didn't like the way the guitar played after a while because but I loved it. I loved that guitar. So when we split up, she took the guitar back and then sold it to spite me. So I got the tattoo to remember it.
Okay.
The guitar now resides in the Martin Museum in Nazareth, Pennsylvania. They bought it at auction and restored it. And that when I went down there, did a tour because I know a guy that works there. He took it out of the case and let me play it. And I was like, geez, it plays a lot. And all these guys are coming over asking me about the guitar, you know, and I was like, telling them all the people that had played it. And I was like, see this thing here? That's where my bass player accidentally, you know, dropped the thing on it. And this over here. I was listing all the damage to it, you know, and things that had happened under my watch. But yeah, if you go to the Martin Museum, you will see it there. It says Mary Lou Lord's 1953 D18. That was
We're going to go there soon.
Very cool.
Regret. Cool. I lived in Bethlehem for 10 years.
Yeah, halfway between Nazareth and
Lower
Bethlehem.
Nazareth Township. So it was literally, I don't know, 5 miles from Martin Guitar, but never got there.
Well, my brother. Give me an email, and I'll give you the guy's name that I know that works there, because he'll give you like a VIP tour of the factory. And what he did for me when I was there. I mean, he took the guitar out so I could play it, which was great. But he's like, when you're done with the little museum, meet me in my lobby, and I'll give you a factory tour. So we're standing in the lobby, and there's like this incredible mahogany case, and in it on either side of these gigantic photos of Hank Williams playing this guitar, and the guitar's in the case. And then he comes out, he goes, we're standing there like taking pictures of the case. He goes, "Do you want to play it?" I was like, okay. And he took the, you know, and it was a 1949 D28. No, sorry, it was a D28, and it was the first nice guitar Hank bought when he first made money, and he later got it was a D18 because then he got a D28 and then a D35. But all I could think about was like, I wonder what songs were written on this guitar. Like, you know how it is, you get a nice guitar, right? You get up, you're inspired to write songs, and he'd had the first hit. So now all the hits that came after were probably written on that guitar. And I just, I couldn't even think about the tour after that. I was like so impressed that I held Hank Williams' guitar, you know, and I had to call my dad after and tell him, I'm like, I played Hank Williams' guitar, you know. But you know what's neat about that place is the history of the factory, because of where they were located when Martin moved it out of New York City to rural Pennsylvania. It's farmland. So back in the day, a large percentage of the employees and the skilled laborers were women, because the guys were working in the farms.
Yeah, did not know that.
Long tradition of, and when you go on the factory tour, you'll notice it's probably like 50% women working there, like real skilled luthiers and stuff. And there's a lot of women that build, which is kind of neat, you know, in this day and age. That there's because you always think guitars are real guys thing, you know, but Martin's really, you know.
Now the original Martin guitar company is more in the town of Nazareth, and my brother lived just a block from there. Yeah. And I got some, you know, they brought in imported woods from all over, and so I gathered some of those woods to do wood carving and stuff. So I've got some wood carvings at home, and other pieces of those wood are in Martin guitars around the world. And that's, but yeah. So then they move out. So for our listeners, if you're anywhere near Nazareth, PA. It's amazing. You can tour the factory. You see where they're made at different levels, and you see these luthiers, they're called, right? The guitar makers at different levels, and you see the high-end guitars being made one at a time. It's amazing to watch. Yeah. And of course, you can see the museum, and as you did, Jack, you know, to touch to touch some of these guitars. Amazing. Yeah,
the original factory too, because so they recreated the front of the building, which is the museum, to look like the original factory, but it's like a mile away, right? Yeah. But the cool thing is, if you go to the original factory, it's still painted up like, you know, C.F. Martin on the wall.
Yeah, it's all there.
There's just one little door. The guy was telling us this one little door on the side. And he goes, every Martin guitar from like something like 1890 up until I think 1967 came through that door. Oh, yeah. So you think like the Hank guitar that I played, the 53 that Mary Lou owned, Kurt Cobain's Martin, you know, any famous Martin, Bob Dylan. Yeah. Okay, and it's a little door. It's not like
they were
hand-making guitars. It wasn't like a big loading dock. It was like they would, you know, they would probably bring like 5-10 guitars out a day or whatever out of this little door. And I was just like, it really blew my mind to think about, you know, wow, every guitar that's.
Yeah, I can picture different places of that building. And when I went looking for wood carving, I got Paduke, mahogany, and scrap pieces, and they were charging me just between $1 and $5, depending on the size, for these, you know, pieces that you just. Now for those blank pieces of wood, you know, it'd be 15 or 20, you know, to find that, and it wouldn't be part of a Martin history. Yeah, so beautiful place.
Yeah. I bet some of that wood's actually even like. Not illegal to own, but certainly illegal to import now. You know what I mean? It's Brazilian
and it's so old and cured too. I mean, you know, just beautiful wood, no cracks. You know, all that, of course. Yeah.
Very cool, man.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So, what about another song? Were you thinking? What were you thinking, Jim?
How about "Avid Indoorsman"?
Oh, okay. The quarantine song.
Yes, I watched the video this morning over breakfast. and it was it was catchy tune.
Now, this was written before.
This song was written. This one's been in the pipeline a few years now, and we were trying to record, and the way we record, like going in and setting up live, sometimes you're not happy with the results. So we've actually tried to record this song like 3 times and just never really been happy with the result of it. So it's certainly on the chopping block for the next record. But I wish I'd had recorded it before, because I would have been a big hit right now, right?
Oh yeah.
It's about the lifestyle of the avid indoorsman. You know what I mean? So you've heard of the avid outdoorsman. This is the avid indoorsman. So, all right, I'll give this one a go. I'm an avid indoorsman, they say, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Some folks go the hunting and the fishing, I stay home for hugging and the kissing. I'm an avid indoorsman these days. Well, I used to have a ball of paint in town, spend all my money running around. These days I just stay at home with a real cute gal I can call my own. I'm an avid indoorsman these days. I'm an avid indoorsman, they say, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Some folks go for hunting and a fishing, I stay home for hugging and a kissing. I'm an avid indoorsman these My pals, they all call me on the phone, worry that I'm home and all alone. But I just tell them not to fret, there's a real cute gal sleeping in my bed. I'm an avid indoorsman these days. I'm an avid indoorsman, they say, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Some folks go for hunting and a fishing, I stay home for hugging and a kissing. I'm an avid indoorsman these days. So fellas, listen up, take my advice. Don't waste your life in a fool's paradise. Just take a tip from me and see that a real fine woman will set you free. I'm an avid indoorsman these days. I'm an avid indoorsman, they say, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Some folks go for hunting and a fishing, I stay home for hugging and a kissing. I'm an avid indoorsman these days. I'm an avid indoorsman these days.
Ooh, yeah. Very good. And so appropriate for the times. Very appropriate for the times.
So is there anything we missed?
I don't know. We covered a lot of the bases. I think, man. I'm off to go cut someone's hair. I'm also.
Okay.
I started training to be a barber about 6-7 years ago, and I never finished because I couldn't commit the time. I was busy and traveling, and so with this whole COVID thing, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna revisit. So I re-signed up, and I'm just finishing up my hours now. So I'm cutting people's hair on the side, but that's gonna be that's gonna be my gig come the new year. Really, I'll be obviously playing. That's the nice thing about barbering. You can do it anywhere, right? So I can.
Oh, you do it out of your house?
Yeah, I got a little chair in my living room. I do it here.
Oh, cool.
I got a buddy has a shop next town over. And then I may open my own shop at some point, but just had to have the flexibility to be able to have something that makes you money when you're out of town is good, And when you travel, I have a lot of friends, musician friends that are barbers too. And it's like, if I'm going to go to LA for say a couple of weeks, maybe stay a few extra days and sit and do a little guest spot at someone's shop, cut some hair. So that's
Excellent.
my thing.
Excellent.
When I'm down in Philly, you guys need a haircut and the jersey.
Okay. I don't have any hair.
Yeah, we don't have that much left. You got a nice head of hair.
We can do a head shave. That's all right.
Yeah.
So,
our listeners, where can they find your music? A lot of people search Apple, iTunes, Apple Music search. What else? What else you want to tell them?
I have a Bandcamp where some of the stuff that you might not find on the iTunes and Apple Music is on the Bandcamp. We did a Raging Teens reunion a couple years ago, and Beck from Swell Tune Records put out a 45. So that's available at Swell Tune Records. If you just Google us, you're gonna find it. I'm really bad at all that stuff. Amy tends to handle all the merchandise stuff. I don't really.
Do you have a website?
Yes and no. I had a website, but I erroneously forgot to renew the thing. Took it down. So they basically, I got it rerouted, so it just goes to the Facebook page,
So if you don't miss it, then
it wasn't bringing me any money.
It wasn't as needed.
It's on social media now. So if you go to jitteryjack.com, it actually takes you to the Jittery Jack Facebook page, and there's contact info there. Like we got some T-shirts and stuff.
I remember. I think I clicked on that link, and it took me back to Facebook. I'm like,
I foolishly forgot to pay the thing or something, and they took it down, and then I was gonna have to pay hundreds of dollars to have someone redo it. I was like, you know what? What's the point? No one ever goes on that damn thing anyway.
Yeah. So you're gonna do these live streams for a while, I guess,
until I don't have to anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, me and Amy, we did one together. She lives in the city, and she lives in she lives with 5 other people. It's kind of like this artist community type house thing. And so, she's very mindful of the virus because everyone she lives with. So she's pretty, I can't go over her house, and she won't really come over here without wearing a mask, and stuff, which is fine, but it's hard to sit around and do a live stream we did one outside in the summer, but I'm actually going to go down. I guess you have a little inside story here, but when I get done with the Barber stuff in January, I hate the winter. So me and Amy always go away like January, February, March. We go away 7-10 days of every month to go to warmer climates, right? Tour down south, go to Texas, go to California. And obviously this year that's not going to happen. So I decided I'm going to take a road trip and go down south. And then I've been talking to my pal Dale Watson and his wife Celine Lee, who's a great singer herself. And he owns a place called Hernando's Hideaway in Memphis, Tennessee. It's a legendary club that Elvis played at back in the day. Like Carl Perkins, everyone played there. There's a Johnny Burnett song called Rockabilly Boogie where they talk about there's a little place called the Hideaway. And it's been closed for like 20 years. And Dale bought it, restored it. It's an amazing place. Wow. So they're open again with a very limited capacity, and because no one's really touring, Dale's been like the house band because he can't go on tour, so he's been playing every night. So they extended an offer if I want to come down that I can sit in with those guys, use Dale's band, and so that might happen late January. Okay. So I'll let the folks know, but you're the first to hear about it. So
Have you been in New Jersey?
Yeah, before? We used to play. We had these friends. Deb Calabro and her fella Gordon. So they go by Crash Gordon, I think is their name. Yeah. And they used to put shows. We used to play years ago. We used to play a place called the Blue Comet, which is just outside of Philly, but on the Jersey side. It was like kind of like a restaurant. And on the Sundays, the guy was a big rockabilly fan, so we would close the restaurant and do this like live music thing. We used to do that for years, and then there was another event that was happening. It was like a VFW hall, but I heard that place closed. But we went down and played. What the hell's the name of that place we played? I'm so bad with names of places because I go to so many places. But Roxy and Duke's place. It's somewhere, not far from Philly, but certainly on the Jersey side, Okay. So we've done a few. We usually get down that way once or twice a year and play because we'll play like New York and then maybe do a Sunday afternoon thing over there, So we do get down that direction, but it's just obviously it's been a while because that's nothing's happening now, right? So we'll be in. Are you guys close to Philly? Or?
We're like an hour and a half, hour 20.
Directly north of Philly, along the Delaware River, PA, and New Jersey. Yeah,
it's funny because we're like an hour and 20 to New York, hour and 20 to Philly. Yeah, we're like
so right in the middle. There you go.
Yeah, but we're not traveling right now to shows, right? Because
Washington, New Jersey is like I could drive 20 minutes, 30 minutes to get to Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
not that far.
Well, Jack, it's been great talking to you, getting to know you.
It was fun.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me on. Thanks for giving me something to do on a Saturday. I appreciate it.
All right.
Okay.
Well, great. Right,
guys.
Take care.
Take care, man.
All right.
I know a guy named Hager, got a style that just don't fit. When the other cats drag around their high rise, it goes cruising in his Viking ship and do the Viking rock. Man, the Viking rock. With a rhythm that just don't stop. Man, it's